This is William Pasquale, and welcome to Inside the Walls with William Pasquale. The purpose of the broadcast is to really bring businesses, big ideas, and business cultures into the view of the viewer, you, and our audience, and bringing game-changing ideas and real estate deals that are just impactful to the people that watch this. And I'm just going to relax a little bit just because I'm so excited about doing this, because it just really, I see this really being a big opportunity to bring people involved and into our viewing to see what works and what doesn't work. We're doing that by interviewing influencers and newsmakers and people making a difference. We're going to go below the headlines, deeper in-depth questions to see, what are the mistakes that happen so that you don't make them along the way, and how individuals make the big deals happen and work. And this format will likely evolve with the input of audience's ideas, and I'm definitely open to that. So let's bring in our first guest. His name is Eric Savage. He is the president and CEO of Freedom Auto Group and Freedom Spas. And here's a quick little intro video on Eric.
My name's Eric Savage. I'm president of the Freedom Auto Group. Some people like to call me Mr. Freedom. I was part of a family business for most of my career, in the car business. And I'd always felt like there was this opportunity to do something more, to be something bigger and better than just a car dealership or a place that just sells cars and sells service. So imagine this. Imagine coming to a car dealership where people consider people first to be the most important tenet. Imagine coming to a car dealership where people are giving more than they're getting. You don't have to imagine it much more, because that's the life improvement business, and that's Freedom Auto Group.
And let's bring in Eric Savage. Hey, Eric.
Good morning and aloha to you.
Good morning to you. Let's say, obviously, we're here at little East Coast time here. It's 2 o'clock, so I know that is, early out there. You're on the Big Island of Hawaii.
That's correct. On the Big Island of Hawaii, 8 a.m., bright and early, ready to go.
Absolutely. So I first off, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this on the inaugural episode. You can tell I'm probably a little bit nervous on the intro there. I had everything scripted and it went a little sideways on me, but that's okay. I'll recover. Mistakes are okay. So,
but before you start, since it is the inaugural episode and I am the first guest, I think there's an unwritten rule that says I get to ask the first interview question. Isn't that right? So I'm going to ask the first interview question. William, why are you doing Inside the Walls with William Pasquale? What's it about?
So I really appreciate you asking that. You're right. I'm supposed to be the one asking the questions, but I'll definitely let you get away with this one. The real answer is avalanches of cash. I just see avalanches of cash for everybody, and that's really its purpose. I'm in commercial real estate brokerage industry. I've been in and around commercial real estate brokerage my entire, professional career, just about. And, because this is starting in the middle of a global pandemic, and people have been making interesting decisions. I go into the city of Philadelphia and, it's still a little bit quiet down there. People are starting to come back. People are starting to reopen, a bit, but not everybody's down there. And I want to be able to bring to the audience, real insights and ideas that they can execute on now that will really impact their business. So when I say avalanches of cash for everybody, I mean, I want to be able to bring in people like you and other people we'll interview and have them garner actionable items and knowledge where we'll add massive value by just providing insight and ideas, whether it be in business in general, in commercial real estate industry, and incredible deals and people that are really moving the needle right now. And I'm sure this, like I said, it'll evolve over time. But really, I don't want to say I'm selfish in the sense that, of course, we're all in this to make to find a way to have income. But I really see this as a way where everybody will win. And I was really trying to create a win-win for everybody, so that the people out there will learn something, truly learn something that they can take action on.
Very good. Well, that sounds like a really exciting premise.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Eric. So can I ask you a question now?
Go ahead.
So in your business, you have a culture that is very unique to the car dealership business called the life improvement business. What are the top three like components you could share of that concept?
Well, thank you for asking. Life improvement business is something that's near and dear to my heart, and something that when we execute well, does extraordinary things in the world. If I were to say to boil it down to three main things, it's the idea. The first thing is that the concept of life improvement business is very simple to understand. It's that our one and only job is to improve the lives of any and every person we meet every single day in any and every way that we can. It's as simple as that. So our role is just to improve people's lives. So whether you've come to our car dealership to purchase a car or kick tires or come to get service or parts, or even if you're just there to get a soda out of the machine or use the restroom, our job is to make your life better in the most meaningful and substantive way possible that we can. So for example, when you come to visit our car dealership, if you make an appointment and say, oh, I'm going to come in at 4 o'clock to take a look at that great Toyota Corolla, one of the questions we ask you before you get there is, well, do you prefer oatmeal or chocolate chip? Because we bake fresh cookies every day on premises because we know it really lights up someone's life to have a cup of coffee and a warm cookie with it just as a greeting. You're being welcomed into our home. You're a guest. You're an honored guest. So that's what we want to do. And that's a little element of life improvement business come true. If we really think about it, it's about the fact that we are a people-first organization, which means that people are more important than profits, process, or policy. And it also means that we're good givers instead of good getters. That our real goal is to be the best giver possible to people and not worry about the getting so much. And when we do that, we come from a space of abundance. And when we have our abundance in our hearts as people, as givers, we're able to really create extraordinary value for other people in the process, which improves their lives. That's the life improvement business in a nutshell.
That's amazing. I would say I've had the opportunity to go into your car dealership. Obviously, I'm a customer. I know you from that, as well as the fact, truth be told in the world, Eric's my brother-in-law, so I've known him for a number of years and have been able to really watch the development of his business. So I think another great question would be what was the genesis of the idea of the life improvement business? I mean, it's car dealerships. You're selling stuff. I mean, that's what this is all about. I mean, like you're selling cars to people, but so taking it beyond that to the life improvement business, like what was the genesis of that idea, and talk about the impact of that philosophy, how it really changed, how it impacts your clients, the people that come in, your employees, and the communities that you serve.
Great question. So it really all stems back to a super curious 7-year-old boy. That's my son, Gabriel. I was on one random Sunday, I was doing the monthly checks for the household, just doing bills at the kitchen table, and up pops 7-year-old Gabriel. He sits down next to me, and I was in a family business at the time with my father and my uncle. We had 9 car dealerships, and he asked me this very profound question, and I didn't even realize how profound it was at the time. He says, "Dad, what's your business for?" And I remember continuing writing checks and just not even really engaging fully with him and just answering very quickly and saying, people come and they give us money for cars and for service and parts. And after they bought the car, we take that money and we use it to pay our people. We pay for our electricity bills and all those things. And with the money that's left over, we buy groceries and you get to go to Disney World. That's how this works. And he said, okay. And he swiveled around on the chair and then just dropped down on the floor and ran off and did whatever 7-year-old boys do. And I remember that moment of him going off that chair. And then as he was falling off that chair, as he was dropping down the floor, my heart was dropping because I had realized I had just failed a massive pop quiz from the universe. And I had just told my son the only reason my business exists is for money. And I had broken my own heart, and I felt like I'd broken his. And I've spent the last 16 years trying to get extra credit to make up for that bombed quiz. And trying to get this right. And that was really the genesis of this, was figuring out what's our business for. It's got to be for something more than just money, right? Right.
So, and like that type of an atmosphere in a car dealership, which is, it's interesting because, at least from somebody that's an outsider, people are working on commissions and people are, it's a very interesting culture within inside of a car dealership. People, when they think of going to go buy a car, their natural reaction is, oh, I'm going to have this amazing, wonderful, outstanding experience in going out and buying a car. It's okay. I got to get my head on. I got to get ready to negotiate. I got to get, and it's a whole experience. How has that life improvement philosophy and culture impacted the actual transactions that go when people go in?
Well, so there's a multifold answer to that question. But first of all, is that the number one issue that car dealers face in terms of a fundamental business problem is turnover. Our turnover as an industry is absolutely awful. It's upwards of 85% a year. So car dealers have a tremendous deal of trouble taking care of employees in a way that they want to stay there. And it's because of this dog-eat-dog world that gets promoted in that environment. When we fully executed life improvement business concept and really brought it home and trained on it, developed it, expressed it, articulated it very, very well, when it became our culture of intention, not by accident, our turnover went down to 10%.
Wow.
And so our people just stuck with us, and they stuck with us, and they stuck with us because what they realized was that this is what they were looking for. They wanted to be part of something that was bigger and better than themselves. They wanted something that was more than just about a money culture. The other thing is that we did turn over people when we made the move because the people who weren't right for that culture, they self-selected out. And that was appropriate and right, and that's what we wanted to have happen. We wanted people who didn't belong in the culture to no longer be there, and we wanted the people who belonged in our culture to be attracted and to be retained. It worked exactly like that. So it was perfect and wonderful for us. And what happens then is that we have people who are really engaged who believe the culture and the mission first, the car deal, money all second, the culture first. When that happens, our customer satisfaction went through the roof. Our margins went up. Our net profit increased.
That's
all
amazing.
things you could ever want to have happen for your business happened, but it happened without us directly manipulating anybody. That's how car dealers typically operate, right? We use these sales tactics to manipulate outcomes. We stopped trying to manipulate outcomes and instead worked very hard to create impact. And impact is about what happens to people. Outcomes are what happens with numbers. So we were interested in what happens with impact. When we changed the impact, the outcome followed suit, and it was amazing. So that's really the secret sauce of life improvement business, was it was the culture first.
Amazing. It's a really incredible process you went through, and and I know when you walk into, when I've told people to go up and visit you guys, they're always just really blown away with just the different level of experience that one has when buying a car. It's something that's truly unique. So I think it's something that is, and now, since I know a little bit of the backstory, you had this vision and this dream of your life that you've had for not for your entire life, but for a number of years. And, you've done really well with the car dealership business. And you said, you know what? It's time for me to go live my dream. So why don't you explain a little bit about the dream and that process and that shift to where you are now? Because obviously you're not in Pennsylvania.
Right. I finally became an astronaut, and I'm now calling from the moon.
Yeah.
That's my dream since child.
Yeah.
It's true. I visited Hawaii many times throughout my life and had always loved visiting this place. Never felt I needed to live here until I visited in 2007. Came to the big island of Hawaii, the best island in the whole archipelago. And when I came here, I knew immediately that I wanted to live here. I had never felt drawn to live anywhere in particular in my life. I've always lived in Reading, Pennsylvania for 48 years or 47 of my years. And never thought I would live anywhere else, but never felt particularly drawn to live there. And I stopped here one time in 2007 and said, oh, I'm supposed to live there. I get it. I feel drawn to it. So it took me 10 years to convince my family, but I finally prevailed in convincing them. And here's where we live now. And we've since opened up a series of spas on the islands. We have 11 spas on 4 different islands, all at resort locations. Which has been a very interesting process through the whole COVID pandemic, since travel and tourism to the islands is way down, but we're figuring our way through.
Well, about to say, speaking of which, it's kind of a twofold question, but I'll go to the real estate question first. You're obviously in 11 different locations, and you have no traffic coming in. How have you been able to deal with your leases and your business terms at these different locations? Must have been, it's like one of the many different components. Obviously you've got your employees that have to retool and rethink how they're going to do what they do. And, I know you're a big giver, and I know you've been working with your employees in many different ways. But keeping a little bit with the theme of being inside the walls, how's the real estate impacted you there? And actually even go as far one step further, and also how that's worked for you in the car dealership business, because I would say that, this big pivot that's happening in business, how people look, the actual just needing of an actual physical dealership, the size that you guys have, which is huge up there in Hamburg.
So two great questions. Let's start with the resort side. Our spas operate inside resorts, and we are. You can't tell that we're an independent operator. We look like we're part of the resort itself. So there's nothing about us that looks or feels independent from the resort. And as such, we've really positioned ourselves to be a value-added component to the resort. We're here to increase the star rating, the TripAdvisor review rating of the guests, so that when the guest experiences the resort as a whole, they experience spa as part of their time at the resort, that it just translates entirely back to the resort owner or operator. So we are a value-added provider in that sense. We're creating additional value. Because of that, we've developed outstanding relationships with our landlords who have, by and large, been really, really fair with us in figuring out how we can, get through these tight times when they're not open, and therefore we can't be open, or for the ones that are open, about how to reinvest appropriately in facilities management so that we have the appropriate social distancing in place and all the appropriate protocols to create the best amount of safety and sterilization, what have you, for the people coming through the property. So we've had really great cooperation from our landlords by and large, and we're very grateful for their support, and we've been trying to be supportive back to them. In terms of the car dealership side, what we're noticing is that the current circumstances of COVID have really created a new opportunity inside of automotive, which is to create a full transaction that happens online or away from car dealership. This is not something that is standard. This is really very new to the environment, and there are many states like Pennsylvania where we operate our car dealerships that frankly don't have regulations in place to allow for it at the moment, but are scrambling to try to put something in place to allow for it to be very convenient for the customer. And so we're in favor of that. We believe that the showroom of today, which is enormous, you have to be able to pack 17 cars plus all the desks and all the congregation space, the waiting area space, all the things that need to go on there. We think that showrooms are going to shrink down over the next 10 years to be 1/3 of the size that they are now.
Wow.
And that the shop space is what's going to grow, because we're really going to become much more maintenance facilities, and sales will be kind of outside. And we think that migration is happening. It's not going to happen immediately. There's been some uptick of that through COVID. People were eager to come back to the showroom once the restrictions were lifted and people were allowed to come back in. But I do believe it started something. And so we're seeing that seed germinate. And again, over the next 10 years, we're going to see that requirements from manufacturers about the size of showrooms is going to get smaller and smaller.
That's incredible. I mean, it's a real shift from the big shops and not the big the big dealerships, showrooms. I mean, I've been up to your place. I mean, you've got a lot of square footage that are up there. So you're thinking that overall industry wide there'll be a shift to a third. You think it'll be half the space, or you think a third less space?
I think 1/3 of the space we have today for showroom, for our showroom, particularly
for showrooms.
Talking about, yes, and so again, not total facility space, just showroom space. I think shop space will actually increase over the course of time. But if you think about it, the model is kind of broken in having these gigantic showrooms. They're the most expensive part of the development of real estate is the showroom space, because the finishes are so expensive. And then, of course, the maintenance of that space, usually very high ceilings that you have to have HVAC managed.
Yeah.
There are very high costs there. And then, your real estate becomes important in the sense that when you have that important show, that big showroom, because you have to be in the right environment to be seen by people, et cetera, et cetera. We think a lot of that starts to diminish, and it kind of becomes, you have a storage lot for most of your inventory. You have a small showroom for the person who absolutely positively needs to come in and touch the car themselves. But that most people are going to say, I know I want a blue one, I know I want this equipment, and this is the day I want it, and it's the price I want to pay. And then the dealers will negotiate directly with consumers and bring the vehicle to the person when it's ready. Why not? Amazon's proven that can work.
Yeah, exactly.
Why can't we do that with automotive? And the truth is that by going to that model and having these real estate operating and ownership costs come down, we're able to transact at a lower price, which means that the consumer ends up with a much better value than we did anyway.
That's a win-win without question. So to just wrap things up here, I have two questions I wanted to ask. One, I'm going to be asking every person that I interview, what are 3 things that you're grateful for today?
Very good. So 3 things I'm grateful for. Well, first of all, I live in the most amazing environment of all. I live in a little town called Waimea in the upcountry on the Big Island of Hawaii. And this morning is a cloudless day. And as I look out my window of my office, I can see 3 different volcanoes from my office, which
That's
is just
awesome.
right. So that's kind of magical, number 1. Number 2, my daughter is 15 years old, and she is back in school. Woohoo!
Yes.
First time I've gone back to school since before spring break. This year, so back in March, so we're very excited she's back in school, and she is over the top excited to be with her friends back in school, safely back to social distancing. So grateful to see her, so happy about that completely. And finally, I'll just say that, first of all, I love the work that I do every day. I have a healthy, happy family, and according to my mirror, I'm better looking than ever. So I like it.
Oh my word. So going with the last question, I had this idea that we came up with, and candidly, I'll give some of the credit over to you because we talked about this, when we were going through what we're going to be talking about in the interview a little, was wisdom on the wall. So we have Inside the Walls is the name of this show. And so wisdom on the wall, if you had to pick like one thing that would be like wisdom you wanted to share, that you wanted to be known for, what would that be?
It's a great question. So I would go with this quote. It's from my brother, who is a doctor, Jimmy. And Jimmy said this one, and it is, when all is said and done, there will be one question. Did you learn to love? And I think that's the ultimate question for all of us to be answering every day in all of our activities. Does this look like love? Am I learning how to love? And how I'm managing this issue, or this problem, this challenge?
Well, thank you, Eric. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, and I know that we added massive value to the people that are out there. So for all of you guys that are watching, make sure that you like in Facebook, like in YouTube, like in LinkedIn, all the different things that we're going to see this. Make sure you like this post and this video and this show. We really appreciate you taking the time to be on here. I hope to continue to add massive value to your world and to your life, and so we could be raining cash on everybody. Because I just think that's always I just love the avalanches of cash idea. That's always great, and so that way we can give more of it away to help other people, especially in this time, in this world that we live in right now. So Eric, thank you so much. I thank everybody for joining.
I'm so excited I was the inaugural guest.
I appreciate it, Eric, very much. And there was never a question in my mind. So have a wonderful day. Thank you, everybody, for being on, and have a good one.
Aloha.
Aloha.